Hey there, welcome to saas.unbound, brought to you by saas.group. I'm your host, Anna Dana, and this is the show where we chat with inspiring founders and experts to get an inside scoop on how they made their business a success. And today with me is Max and Julian Weber, brothers, co-founders of cool products like Storito, a scheduling solution that enables businesses to create, edit, and schedule stories for Instagram from their browser, which is super, and Audiocado, an intuitive platform that helps creators to turn their podcasts into videos. And that hits home. I immediately went to try the product when I learned about it. So, yeah, welcome to the show and excited to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Sure, anytime. Family business, huh? So let's get into your backgrounds, maybe a little bit. Max, let's go with you first.
Yeah, sure. So I'm into startups since 2009, worked for a few since then. And then roughly mid 2016, I co-founded the company behind Storito. And yeah, we spent the first 2 years trying to create a product in the virtual reality space. Yeah, but this market it didn't went well, as everybody knows. And yeah, then in mid 2018 we did a pivot and created Storito. And yeah, since then that's our main business. And yeah, I don't know, 1.5 years later we started also Audiocado as a side business. I'm mainly a developer, but I'm also entrepreneur for SaaS business.
I actually joined in 2.5 years ago. I'm not a co-founder. I was a hired gun for the marketing offense. So and I'm doing this since 2 years here and joined my brother. So it's then becoming a family business. It's working great so far.
Okay, wonderful. Well, it's very interesting to see how families work together. I've had a few um, family businesses here on the podcast, and it's really interesting how to navigate their relationship at work and outside. But anyway, I did a quick intro, but it would be great to learn a bit more about both products and just the background and the inspiration behind them because they're quite different. So let's maybe start with Storito first. That was the first one, right? What is the
Yeah.
timeline here? Yeah. So let's start with
Um,
Storito.
yeah, sure. So Storito, back then, Instagram just copied Snapchat and created Instagram stories. And back then, we just noticed there was a huge demand to automatize this. And since now it's also still not possible, except for Storito and a few others, to fully automatize or prepare your Instagram stories so that it's gets auto posted later on. And yeah, I mean, we did a big pivot from virtual reality stuff to social media thing. But yeah, it was a perfect match also that it was a SaaS business and that brought us very quickly steady revenue. And yeah, Audicado, yeah, we always was looking for other opportunities to also get more growth and so on. And Audicado was mainly meant as backup for Storito. I mean, you are depending on a third party. So anytime Instagram can say, I don't like stories anymore. Let's go with Reels 100%. And then we would have no product anymore. And Audicado the goal was really to create something which is not dependent on a third party. And yeah, but we can get into some mistakes we made with this decision later on, I think.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And so many stories from founders of tools that are dependent on third party, especially like social media platforms. That's just the resilience that you guys have. It's really admirable. And yeah, since you started talking about the mistakes, and I know that's what everyone wants. That's why everyone's here. So I know that Educado kind of became a bit of a sidekick at the moment. So how did that happen? What was the reason? And are you still keeping it? Because it's a cool tool. I mean, it's small, but it has its niche, right? And again, I tried it. I was very excited, and we do have video version of this podcast, which makes it a little less relevant, maybe. But for those who don't, this is super cool. And yeah, so are you still keeping it? Are you still working on it as it's a sidekick, or you have a big plan?
Yeah, so at the moment it's really just keeping it alive, or also don't have enough time to proper shut it down, because keeping it alive is less work. And yeah, I really like the comparison when you create a company and a product that's kind of like a leaky bucket. So on the one hand, you need to pour in more water, so meaning acquiring customers via different channels. And on the other hand, you somehow need to find ways to fix all the holes in the bucket, so AKA preventing churn. So then, yeah, you are just really busy just doing this for Dorito. And if you create a second product like we did, speaking of the mistakes with Audicado, then you just have a second leaky bucket, which is much smaller, which also demands your attention, and it makes way less money. And yeah, that's also a mistake we did several times within Storito with several features. So you can for sure say, okay, let's support Instagram direct messages or whatever. But when you just noticing, okay, to do stories right, you are fully busy, then you shouldn't, you should say no to all other opportunities.
And from the marketing perspective, the customers didn't have any intersection, so we couldn't sell like Audicado to Dorito customers mainly. So we would have been better like bringing something into Storito, which makes their life easier, and then we upgrade more customers from there. So it was completely different markets, and they had nothing to do with each other. So would be clever if some other company would have done it and not us.
Right. Okay. So we're talking about the focus here, right? Well, let's double down on that because, well, I went because a couple of years ago, I just remembered when I learned about Cerrito, I was like, oh, a couple years ago, I would learn about you guys, and that would be so perfect because I remember at some point I really, really wanted to automate my stories, and it was not possible, and it was like, oh crap, like I just have to like do it from scratch every time. But yeah, and now when you just, like, go into Google and start, asking it, like, what is the product that does it, there's a bunch of videos, and it's all Julian. And yeah, so you double down on content. And, I guess, well, videos is something that you actively do. So how did you start doing it? Why did you decide that this is the way to go?
Well, I was brought on and I already had my own YouTube channel. And for SEO is quite easy on YouTube because well, everyone can write a blog post. You just have to type, right? But setting up a studio, having a microphone, having a camera and so on, that's kind of difficult to do, right? And a lot of people are camera shy. YouTube is also a search engine. So people go there and search the stuff they also search on Google, and even Google presents like your videos on their first page on Google. So that's why starting with a video is kind of cool because you will encounter less competition. And of course, then we did also some content landing pages. We actually saw this in other startups. For example, Vidio, they did like really cool landing pages on every search term they want to rank for, which was kind of nice because it wasn't like an old school blog post. And then we thought, I don't know if you know the term, like a good artist copy and great artist steal. So we kind of took this idea, but then we took it a little further because I was a one-man show marketing person at the beginning. And I thought of like technologies you can use to like just have a little bit more scale. And that's why we then integrated deepl.com as like a translation solution. So we translated all our blog posts into 24 different languages. That worked really well, like having a landing page with the video And we even took it then one step further and also bought voiceovers for my own videos. And we then had videos in Italian, in Spanish, in Dutch, and even in Arabic and Chinese. We did those videos. And yeah, if you just pump out a lot of content, you will get lucky at some point, because in some countries it will rank perfectly, and in some it will take more time and you have to push it a little bit further. But that's how we did it, like first video, then blog posts, and then translating both of them. And that actually got us a lot of reach. So that was cool.
All right. And like I said, when you go to Google and you say, hey, I want to post my stories from browser, that, it's all you guys. And I haven't tried it in Russian, and I know you have a translation in Russian, but I'm going to try it right after our podcast. Okay, since you started talking about growth and what kind of channels you're leveraging, there is another one I know that you're really big with is Google Ads, which is, I don't know, for some would be very controversial. Like, we don't necessarily believe that it's something that we should go with, for example, for a lot of our products. So how did you stumble upon this? How did you choose to go that route?
Actually, I would disagree. I would highly encourage every founder, to test their product with the Google Ads, because it takes a lot of time, like ranking your content. Like, you have to write it, you have to build backlinks, you have to have your studio, record it, cut it, upload, etc. Right? You have to do all that. And with Google Ads, it gives you the possibility to just put traffic on your page, right? You just buy it and then there's traffic. And we actually did that when I joined first with Audiocado. Like, it was stumbling, like we had some subscribers, but not significant, anything significant. And then I bought just Google Ads for it, and it took off. Like, really, it was just a hockey stick growth. And of course, it's expensive. For us, it was good because we had already Storito running. We could pour money from there into Audiocado. And yeah, before spending like a year on content and hoping that someone gives you some SEO love there, like Google will rank you, you can just get this money, and because your time is also worth money, right? So you can just test your offer, whatever you do, with a simple Google ad. Like, you need a page, a landing page, a sign up, and then just buy traffic. That's for the start. And right now, we actually, for all these landing pages we built, we buy traffic from all over the world, because this is also automated with AI now, like dynamic campaigns for experts. And those pages get backlinks because first we buy the traffic from Google, then people share the link, and suddenly you have a backlink. So even like, it's complementary. Like, you have your organic SEO, and then you buy a bunch of traffic from Google when you can afford it, of course, but it just elevates the growth like significantly.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's also the perfect strategy to getting started, because you can buy ads from Google, Facebook, etc. from day one. And if your product is not performing there, so nobody's buying it, then you don't need to waste more time on it, because, I mean, it's maybe you paying more money to acquire a customer in comparison to the lifetime value, because your product is still in infancy and needs more additions, etc. But at least you can test if there's a market and if people are interested in what you're building. And so that's the perfect shortcut for every first-time founder or even senior founders to just buy Google Ads and Facebook ads and whatever to get started.
But if you do it for the first time, don't wonder. Like, it is expensive. Like, you're right. Like, you're better off having a content team and so on. But it's also nice to know how much you have to pay to get a customer. Like, we definitely know how much we pay right now to get a customer. And that's also good for like evaluating how much you can grow, how much you can need to spend to grow more. And that's good insights from the get-go. And usually when you start, you're not good at content creation, like, except you have a background before that, right? But so I do like Google Ads a lot, because you don't have to create any video like TikTok ads or something. You need to do a video which is performing well organically already to do then an ad on it. But Google Ads is just plain text, right? And it gives you traffic right away. So it's fairly easy to get started.
And as Julian said, you can really use the trick to really serve different languages. So US companies used to really ignore search traffic in other languages, and even for the most expensive search terms on Google Ads, you can really often buy them cheap in other languages.
Oh yeah, right. Absolutely. So, talking about the market and your ideal customer, how did you find them in the first place? How did you find your product market fit would help you? Because that's what a lot of early stage companies and first time founders struggling with. How do it work for you?
Yeah, so essentially with Torito, we was just lucky. There was essentially one blog post which ranked very, very well in the beginning. And that brought us a lot of signups. Of course, the competition a year later or so, it was not performing so well, like in the beginning, of course. I can say, so for Audicato, we just looked into the market, what tools are there which don't have a third-party dependency, which have a huge intersection with the skills we already have in creating products of this kind. And then just look at the products which are in the market. There's already market when there are successful products, and then just create a product in this space, maybe in a niche. So of course you shouldn't compete with Canva or Adobe or whatever, but there might be still special workflows, maybe for podcasters, maybe for content creators, which really needs a custom solution. And yeah, just talk and get the first 5 customers, do it for free, and just try to do a good job and provide value to them. And if this works, you can scale it.
And you have to also thinking of audiences, how rich they are, right? For Storito, we're kind of lucky because a lot of brands and agency owners buy us because they don't want to pay for their employees to work on the weekend where they have to post the stories manually on their phone, right? So a lot of people like B2B customers buy us, and they kind of have like a sticky, like low churn rates also because they stay longer, because once they go through all the process of signing all the papers and really convincing everyone this is a great tool, then they kind of stick to this. So that's like thinking of this is essential. Like, who are you serving and how much money do they have and how long will they stay? What's the stickiness of your business, right?
And what for me in the meantime is really an important detail, so that you really try to solve hard problems, that you try really to do your thing. So I mean, founder product fit is also very important, and that you really try to do it for decades. So think about if your product will still be there in 10 years. So for Storito, for example, it may be that there aren't any Instagram stories anymore in 10 years. Maybe TikTok took over everything or whatever. But there are definitely markets which that they will exist in 10 and 20 years, and you will get so much better in comparison to what you can accomplish in the short term. And here, Jeff Bezos once said, so what's the best way to predict the future? And he was saying, okay, rather think about what will not change. So in the case for Amazon, people in 10 years, they still like a huge catalog of products with a good price and one day of delivery. And that will definitely stay the same. But on the other hand, you also need to look at the technology. So for example, that's also one of the reasons why we do not put more work in Audicato, because the competition is so strong in the meantime, because due to all the AI tools they are adding. And if you look at what Canva, Adobe and the like are doing at the moment, it's just not reasonable to compete against this as a small team, except for if you really, really specialize on one task in this AI space. But yeah, play the long game.
All right. Yeah, I think that's a great advice. And there are two things that you mentioned that I kind of want to take a little further. First one is selling to bigger customers, and second one is the team. Well, since you started selling to bigger customers, how did it affect the product and how did it affect the sales process as well? Because, well, you have probably, that's just my assumption, added a few salespeople or a sales motion there, someone they can talk to, or are you trying? Did you somehow manage to make it self-service for the enterprises?
It's still self-service. I worked at a different company before, which was exclusively B2B. And they actually had the problem that they had all these salespeople, but people expect the sales process the way they experience this in B2C, like having a web page, signing up, and then having a tutorial, because they don't want to jump on a meeting. They just want to see the tool, try it out, and then decide themselves if they want to buy it, right? So some bigger companies approached us, and we still have some negotiation with them to do. But like the onboarding process is kind of the same. Like when they browse, it's a person in front of the computer, so that isn't a big difference. And but you're right. Like the bigger they are, then they want some special treatment, some discounts. But we kind of automated this also with like a quantity discount. So we said like, okay, if you buy 10, you get 20% off. If you buy 20, you get so and so much discount off. And we kind of want to stick to that. I mean, Max, you have the story of the NBA calling up, right? Maybe you want to talk.
I mean, your biggest problem in the beginning and still nowadays is just the lack of time. And yeah, once someone from the NBA was requesting us to regarding a demo call and so on, but beforehand I did so many demo calls with Uber and a lot of other big companies, and I just rejected it because you just have too many fires at once. And we then tried to delegate the stuff, but until you onboard someone and so on, it also takes time. So and we are, as Julian said, we are all in regarding however you like to call it, product-led growth, or here a low-touch sales model. So we couldn't just a small team, many tasks becomes really unhandleable soon when you have to do it manually. So one example, for example, is the invoicing we do. So that's one thing we do for bigger customers, but due to the platform we are using, they working on an API will maybe released in the next couple of months. But before that, we didn't have an option to automatize this, and it still takes a lot of time to follow up and see if the money has arrived. When do I have to recharge them? So we try to really automate everything.
Yeah, I usually have to send like sometimes 20 different emails back and forth with one person, like with one enterprise, to get the invoice paid, right? And then I have to call the developer to upgrade their plan and so on. It's like you don't want to do that, because you have to think about, like, are you an enterprise software selling to enterprises, or do you have like a normal software everyone can use, but enterprise people want to buy it, right? So in Storito, like an influencer, a small brand, a big brand, they can all use it. So we don't have enterprise pricing, right? But if we would now hire a lot of salespeople, they are expensive. They eat in your margin. Like you don't want to have like 3 or 4 salespeople on your payroll roll, because they eat up all your margin, right? So you really have to be clever about I mean, if we could have enterprise plans, we would make it, and maybe in the future we will diversify somehow. But if you're like a small startup or a small SaaS company of like 5 to 7 people, we usually, then you really have to think about what are you actually doing. Like you need to make a sale with someone, right? Fast, because you don't have upfront so much capital, right? So yeah, I wouldn't get into enterprise SaaS company without a lot of runway too, because it takes a long time from our experience to really get the money on your account then.
Yeah, absolutely. I was talking to another founder, and he has a developer tool, and he's been working on it for, I think, 15 years or something. And he's the only person, like he's the solo founder, and there is nobody else on his team. And he says, sometimes he sells to big enterprises, and he's like, he's trying to automate everything. And he's like, well, there is an option to just pay with your credit card. But some enterprises would still come to him, and they're like, well, can we get an invoice? And he's like, I hate invoices so much that now if anyone asks me to give them an invoice, I make the price, I think he said like 20 times higher. So like, there is your hack.
And this is also exactly the thing you should be doing, because it's really driving the focus to the wrong things, to the manual task, and that's not the right thing to do in the context of software. And I mean, many products, if they sell to enterprises, they are the exact same product, but they have this single sign-on, which are demanded by many enterprise customers, and then they charge just the 10x price. That
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's a lot of teams are struggling with that. So I think that's very relevant to talk about it. But since you already mentioned the team, how big is the team or how small is the team? I know that you're working with freelancers. That's also something I really want to discuss because working with freelancers sometimes is challenging. There is, the motivation that you have to bring to the table. There is, maybe a culture that you're already trying to build in the team, and then you're bringing a new person. I would assume you're not bringing a new person every time. There is maybe someone that works with you from time to time that you know and who knows the product and you. But that's just an assumption. So you tell me what is really happening.
so basically, we turned into a remote company kind of overnight to the pandemic, and also because some of us relocated around Cologne, and yeah, and then we tried to hire the two freelancers, which worked pretty well. One developer from Poland and one from France. The collaboration and so on, it was all perfect. Was kind of like having employees, and they exclusively focused on our product. But yeah, in the end, it kind of didn't work out because the one guy, he visited us 2 times, but yeah, you cannot really get a deep relationship when you don't meet regularly in some office or so. So we, for example, meet every Tuesday in Cologne in our office. And one other major learning we made is that was also an overnight switch to use English for all the meetings. We was using it for all the documentation and so on anyway. But yeah, still, when it's not your mother tongue, then it's just you have 10 or 20% less capacity in your brain. And nowadays, we all speak German, and it's then way more efficient to do meetings and so on.
Yeah, that has to be a conscious decision. Like when you switch, for example, if you're a German startup or a German company, like hiring someone in English, like full time, that I would give it some thought, because then everyone needs to speak in English and people will mute themselves who are not comfortable speaking that. So yeah, we really like, I don't think we will change to English until we like 15 or 20 people, because if we can hire someone in speaking German, like we will always do that. And you will be surprised, like you can find people in other countries for let's say a little bit lower income. Like we had like one person from Ukraine, and we didn't really look for that. I looked on LinkedIn people for customer support, and she was speaking German and was from Ukraine. And we're like, okay. And then you have this for startups now, and this is kind of important. Like you have this advantage, like you can pay lower salary, but they do speak your mother tongue. So because some people always go look for developers in, let's say, I don't know, India or Pakistan to get lower salaries. But you will be surprised that in other countries, you will also find people who speak your same language. So you don't necessarily, when you look abroad, you don't need to they have the expectation that they only speak English. Some do speak your language. So that was nice. And we hire, like when you have like a repetitive task, like for example, for us, it's customer support. We directly hired someone there, and we will always do so. I mean, we are in close contact, so we will know what the customers are saying. But this is like a full-time job, right? And now the next hire will be someone for customer success, because you can never do enough of that. And yeah, like everything repetitive, you usually hire. And everything on the project base, for example, we had some UI changes. We hired like on Upwork, we hired a guy also from Ukraine for the UX design, and he was brilliant. Like he did a perfect job. And yeah, we didn't have to hire him for that. And so that worked quite well also.
Yeah. Oh, that's an interesting hack. And well, Ukrainian developers are known for being pretty cool. And I mean, Polish, Russian. I don't know. Somehow, what is with this area? Everyone's so talented in developing something. But okay, cool. Thank you for sharing that. I think one more very important thing that I wanted to bring up as well. I know that you've made a big change in pricing, and that was a bit of a bumpy ride, maybe, if I may say. So, what did you do? Let's just ease into it. What did you do first? How did you decide to do it in the first place? Because again, a lot of founders say, "Oh, you just do it. Every 3 months, every 2 weeks, like whatever, just play with it." And yeah, for some, it's just like, oh, it's life or death kind of situation. So we don't know. We're not sure if we're ever going to do that. So what was your take on it, and what were the learning?
I was coming into the company and I was kind of challenging the pricing because before Storito was charging per Instagram story post. And they had like, you could buy packages of 100 story posts, of 500 story posts, and of 2,000 story posts. And they were on a subscription. So when the month passed, they were gone and you get another 100, right? So, and I was like, okay, there are between 100, 500, 200, 2,000, there are like a lot of gaps. And to your question earlier, like who's your buying persona, right? Like, for example, enterprise level companies. I was like thinking, if I'm an owner of an agency and I have like, I don't know, 10 different brands I work for, I know I have 10 different brands and they all have one Instagram account. So like a C-level metric would be like my 10 Instagram accounts, right? But I wouldn't know how many story posts I need because how much do they post? Do they post 2, 3, 5, 10? I don't know, right? So that's why, I mean, you call it the value metric, how you want to price your product. And that's why we were challenging the approach, because we want to serve like the agency owner who knows how many accounts he has, right? So that's why we switched from paying per post to paying for one Instagram account and then having unlimited story posts, because story posts are kind of limited by day anyhow, because you never post more than, let's say, 8 or 10 stories per account, right? So, and even a lot of customers appreciate that. And it made the whole system of thinking very easy, because we don't have to count story posts anymore. People weren't before, they weren't getting that the stories after 1 month, they got erased and you start from scratch, because a lot of people thought it will add up. And you're right, like we had a lot of confusion, and to this day, we still have a little bit of a headache, because you have to find, then once you found your value metric, you need to find the perfect price. And all I can say there is like start low and making it higher, because once you have people paying a premium price on a subscription and then you make it lower, you eat in your own profits, right? Because they will find out and then they will go down. Finding the sweet spot, you start at $10 and then at 15, 20, and you see how many sales you can make, right? Yeah. Unfortunately, we did it the other way around. You really have to give it a lot of thoughts. You can always work with discounts also, but yeah, for us, like we still working on this, and it's like, it's not something you'd want to break overnight and just do something. And one last thing, which is cool for startups, like have a yearly plan on discounted, because then you will get a lot of cash up front, right? You get 12 times the amount you usually get. So when you started having a yearly plan, you can generate a lot of cash and lower your churn rate, because people won't leave the next 12 months because they already paid. So yeah, because when I started, Storita didn't had a yearly plan then this time.
That was also due to the lack of time. So, but it's really worth it to have a yearly plan from the get-go. Yeah, and one other point there with the pricing is, so Julian and I spent roughly 2 months thinking about it. So just going from version 1 to now pricing version 2. And as Julian said, it was hopelessly complex, the old pricing. And also from a developer perspective, it created so much problems. And even today, it creates problems because you have these legacy customers, they are still on the old pricing. So you still have to think about if everything works well on both pricing models. So spend a hell lot of time to get your value metric and your pricing right. And for example, with charging per story post, you can compare it to charging when you pick up the phone and you pay per minute or something like this. Nobody wants that. Everyone wants the flat rate because it's really hard to forecast this stuff, and you have to forecast it. It's at least like a business of our size, because we don't have the money to say, okay, we send you an invoice, and if you use 10,000 minutes, then, or story post, then we maybe get the money someday, because it's all also generating costs on our end. But even on the customer side, it created really a lot of uncomfortable problems for them. So you have to focus the amount of story posts you need, and then you somehow at some point run out of story posts, and then you kind of have an automation solution, but then you have to manually buy new stories. And that's, of course, not what you want. And then we invented this horrible story post packages where you can buy story posts, maybe 100 for $5 or whatever. But this all gives you a headache. And that's why really start with a very simple pricing, very simple value metric, and also don't, for example, charge per feature. So every feature is available on each plan. I mean, that's the whole reason for having a value metric. But when you pick the wrong value metric like we did, then you also get into trouble. So,
and you can't never make it perfect. There are always people who for whom it's too expensive or for too cheap. I mean, we have enterprise customers paying the same as a one-person show, right? And you can think about it, but as Max said, like, you really have to think of when starting also from the technical perspective and the support perspective. Like, do people get it? Like, you really show it to people, or don't get too fancy. Like, get something out there which is working for another company, right? So look around what they are doing, and if a lot of people doing it, it might be a good sign that you should do that too. Like, don't reinvent the wheel, right? So and really, really don't make it too complicated, because it just makes your life. It's the same like hiring more people, right? Do you want to hire more people? Because your life will get more complicated hiring more people, right? And maybe you make even less profit then, because you have to pay them, right? And same with pricing. Like, you shouldn't make it too complicated, because then you have to explain it multiple times in every call, and people will challenge you all the time, and that just sucks.
And one interesting insight is also we spend a lot of time thinking about the pricing table and so on, because we always are afraid that people or leads spend not too much time in the pricing table and trying to pick which plan should I use and so on. So in the meantime, we just have one price on the homepage. It's $25 per Instagram account per month. And because we like that people continue in the funnel, that they do the sign up and so on. And if you, for example, we have heat maps with our web analytic tools, and you see there's so much going on the pricing table. They switch back and forth between yearly and monthly, comparing the stuff. But that's not what you like. You like that the customer don't spend all the time with the pricing sign in front of your store. You want that they come into the store and look at your products, try them out. And that's also, I think, an important thing to do. So make the decision easy for your customer.
Yeah, 100% agree. Yeah, no one wants complicated. I mean, it's difficult enough to choose the tool that you want to use, and then when you go in, and you're like, yeah, I want to use this. I chose you, and then it's like 100 different plans, and you're like, oh, let's do this again.
One small thing what worked really, really well for us, just to add, because it's a good insight for this far. Also, same like good artists don't copy, they steal. Like, we saw this on Shopify, because they sell their subscription for $1 for 3 months, right? And I saw that on the news site, and I was like, crazy. They say, we don't need your money for like 3 months, because they know it takes a lot of time to build up your online store, right? So you need a lot of time to do that. And you don't want to charge it. Like, you want to make it as easy as possible for the person to just hop on your product, and really work it into their workflow and understanding it, right? And they still do this to this day. And what we copied from them was like just giving a huge discount after you sign up for the first month. It's like 90% discount with a countdown timer, even to give it some urgency and so on. But it increased the revenue like crazy, like really crazy. Not, it didn't double it, but it's like it was crazy. So, and this plays into the psychology. Like you don't want to have to pay for something what you don't know what works, right? But you do want to get the credit card information because then you can charge them later. And having like $1 or 90% off makes it super easy to get this. And really having also a fair offer, like try it out, but when you like it and you stay, then we charge you, right? And that is really something everyone should try, like just giving a heavy discount for the first 2 or 3 months, and then see that the people, because then you can also challenge your onboarding, right? If everything works, do they understand everything? Does the product work? But you got the pricing out of the way, because as Max said, we saw the heat map was lighting up on our pricing table on our homepage. And we did that because everyone else seemed to do it. But I would say it was kind of stupid because it had so much cognitive load to the whole process, which you can erase just by not talking about the price too much, right?
And you have paid a lot of money for acquiring this customer, maybe on Google Ads or whatever. So, and then you really want to, that's a really quick way to optimize your funnel to make the decision as easy as possible to buy the product. And I mean, if customers don't stay for longer than 3 months, you have another problem anyways. So.
Yeah, that's true. That's a different kind of problem.
And we saw this in the data. Like it's not like a personal feeling, like it was like heavy. Like it was, I never saw that increase in anything. Like a heavy discount upfront, it's perfect.
Right. Okay. I feel like you guys are sharing all the gold, and I want to stay for another couple of hours here, but we only have a few minutes left so that you can jump on your next meeting. But there are exactly 2 questions that I always ask at the end of the podcast. First one, what has been so far the biggest win and the biggest failure? Could be what you feel as a founder, the co-founder, or something for business.
Yeah. So for me, the biggest win, it's really easy. It's just creating a profitable SaaS business, and we're keeping it alive for over 5 years. So if you look at the statistic, it's only a 3% chance that you get to the size we are currently in. And the biggest failure, I mean, I am in kind of wanting to start a startup since 2009. That's a long time. That's way over a decade. So my biggest regret and biggest failure is just not starting early enough and just spending the time with unimportant things. And you should just start, build a product, try to get customers. And I mean, the product will probably not look good and maybe you lose a lot of customers, but you will get better over time. And if you procrastinating and spending all the years not actually make it real, then you also miss out on all the learnings on the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Julian, what about you? In 2 years, what has been your biggest win?
I would just emphasize the last thing, like, because before that at the other company, I was just doing A/B tests a lot, and I was always happy when the numbers were great. And just having this heavy discount with a countdown upfront, this was just perfect because it was really a lot of increase in new revenue from new acquired customers. Yeah. And that also plays into like the whole Google Ads thing, like just making things profitable. Because when I started here, I wasn't too good in Google Ads, and now I can comfortably say like, this is the price we pay for a new customer. Give me more money, I bring you more customers, right? So that gives me as a marketing guy like a good feeling. Like I know in numbers what I do. Like I never do something without any numbers, right? If I change something or so, and that's cool. Like that's, I think I made my job there. And biggest failure, so far it's great. But I think also the pricing is gave me the biggest headache. Like it was so much, because it was already there. And to this day, we're talking about this. I don't know. I like to put a check mark on things. So, and this is still open since I started. So that feels like It's like a failure.
Okay. All right. Let's call it a challenge, not a failure. I mean, you can still check market later. Okay. And one more question. Since, we're talking about like Google Ads, and I know that you raised some funds and but at the same time you did this videos and you translated them. So that was a bit of a more, I would say, scrappy technique than, just doing Google Ads. So it's kind of a mix. And I think just knowing some of your investors, I would still, again, assume that you're moving towards a more sustainable growth. So how would you recommend, what would be your hack to grow sustainably without breaking the bank?
So for me, it would definitely be word of mouth, because that's the only acquisition channel which scales quadratic and not linear. So on ads and everything else, you have to pay the same amount of money to get one new customer. Of course, you can optimize this, but in the case of word of mouth, I mean, when it's the ideal situation, you get one new customer, he tells two other people, the two other people tell four people, those 8 people, and you get some kind of viral growth. But you also have to pay attention that sometimes word of mouth is also negative. So people didn't like your product and they then share not so good news with their friends and colleagues. And yeah, therefore, the only way to have a good word of mouth is just focus on the product, really make it excellent, make a good documentation, good user onboarding, customer support. So be really interested in solving the problems that people are writing you. And yeah, talk with your customers regularly and just try to make them more successful. And even if you're a technical founder, for me, I'm learning a lot of stuff about business in the last few years. Most of the stuff I learned from Alex Omosi, and I can really recommend his YouTube videos and books. He shares all the really valuable business insights for free, and he's making with his wife, he have a 200 million company which do acquisitions, so also investor. And yeah, every time you speak also with your investors and so on, just try to distill the learnings and yeah, kind of buying the other people's mistakes, trying to avoid them.
I can maybe like that's a product focus, right? But at the beginning, you need some customers who initially try the product, and you can either buy them. The first thing you need to think about, like, where do they sit? Like, for example, we don't do anything big on mobile because we could use that for branding, but we are like a SaaS company using in the browser. We mainly work on desktop PCs or laptops, right? So that's why YouTube and Google is great, because blogs are no, and the YouTube is also something you do there. We don't focus on like TikTok or something, because that's, you make a video, it goes up and then it goes down. Like Google and YouTube will give you that search traffic. So it's really worth the effort. Like we still have a lot of views on YouTube, even though we don't upload any videos, right? Or we get blocked. Like I would start SEO like without questions. And I wouldn't focus on like too exotic acquisition channels. Like for example, we tried LinkedIn marketing, like PPC marketing, buying traffic from LinkedIn. And to this day, I heard like LinkedIn is super expensive. And yeah, we tried a lot of things and really focused on one channel and really, because there's so much noise out there and you have to be good at something, right? And I was happy that I was good at YouTube and I could instantly make it work. Like we got subscribers, we got views, people were trying it out. Then I got good on SEO and we did that together. And now it's kind of okay, like we're happy here, right? We can just make more of this. Like I could go out and make shiny object syndrome TikTok videos, but I don't know if they work. But what works, just making another landing page, making a new video, right? And then even if it's boring because it's not new, just do it over and over again. That's how you need to find out what works and then just do it over and over again.
Yeah, absolutely. Consistency matters. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your hack. Not really a hack, right? But just something that, again, that works. Maybe not very glamorous, but if it works, it works.
It can get boring just doing the same over and over again. For example, focusing on churn customers, like following up with them. it's boring, right? But that's doing the business. Like, just do also the boring stuff. Like, it's not everything is fancy.
You just have to focus doing the basics at scale, and that's often boring work. But I mean, there's so much distraction nowadays, and you should really only improve your product, do more of it, but never do something new like Audiocado, for example. And yeah, just see that you do a lot of volume on this stuff, which is already working. Because normally we founders are kind of incentivized if you find something that has a product market fit and that you spend years to find this, maybe, and then you continue your habits to find new stuff. And that's the wrong thing. Then when you have one thing working, focus completely on this one.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, podcast works. I don't necessarily enjoy editing it. It's boring, but it works. Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you guys. It's been great talking with you. Like I said, I have quite a few more questions, but I guess maybe we can do it again sometime. I would be happy to have you on the podcast again. Thank you for sharing your story. And yeah, excited to see where you go next.
Thanks for having us.
Sure. Anytime. And take care.